Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back into my channel. So in this lab, going to attach or manage data disk into a Windows VM or whatever, into a Linux VM in Azure. So as you can see here, um, in the Azure, um, in the Learning Microsoft website, so it's kind of giving us different different things here. So if you look, this article shows you how to attach a new managed data disk into a Windows virtual machine by using the Azure portal. So the size of the VM determines how many data disk you can attach. More information, you click here, whatever. So it's gonna give you the size, different things like that. So add a, add a data disk. So you sign into the portal, you search for and select a virtual machine. You select virtual machine on the list, and then on the virtual machine pane, select the disk. On the disk pane, select and create attach new disk. And then you drop down, bang, 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 bang. So initialize a new data disk. So you connect onto the VM. So this one thing I love about Microsoft is the fact that it's kind of like break down into details, different things that you can do in their portal. So they make things very easy, very explanatory, and their names of their stuff is very understandable. So as opposed to some other cloud service provider, especially like AWS. So name of their stuff can be very hard, but with Azure, it's pretty easy um, to get things done. So select whatever, bing, bang, bang. So all these things. So it says the next step. So it's kind of like it's giving you a better, so connect to the VM, select the Windows Start menu inside of the one in VM, and enter this disk mt.msc in the search box. So this manager console open, and then bang, bang, bang. So it's kind of giving you the steps that you would take to do that. So let's go ahead and create and pull up Azure portal and start to create our disk. So we're gonna create a managed disk and attach it to our virtual machine. So we're gonna click on disk. It's going to list all the disks that have been created. So in our case, this is the only disk that's been created. That's the OS for the virtual machine. So if we click on create, now, now the subscription is already giving you this by default AG subscription one. Now for the resource group, I was already have this was RG1, which is resource group one. So the 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 name here is the name of your whatever. Like I could give it a name of the virtual machine. So my virtual machine was AZ VM, and it was one. So and the region I can leave it on East US one. Now for availability zone, I can leave it in one, or either I could just pass on the easy is one. Now the reason I leave it on on East US one is because that's the region that my VM was has been placed. So it's come to the source. Source type. There's a variety of it. There's snapshot, there's storage, blob, there's disk, and disk restore point. So you can either select either one of those. But in our case, I'm just gonna leave that in none. Now, let's come to size. I can click size here. And instead of leave it on the premium version, which is 124 gigabit. So I can put it on 64 gigabit. Let's put it on 64 gigabit. Let's hit that. Let's hit next. Now, you see here it says Azure offer server-side encryption with platform managed keys by default for managed disk. You may optional choose to use a customer managed key. Let's check this out. Let's just leave this as the platform manage instead of custom or platform, whatever. Now let's hit next. Now for networking, public access, enable public access for all network, or disable public access and enable private access. So I can I can leave it I can leave it on enable, the one that was by default. So let's get now with advanced. Now let's see. It says shared disk. Enable. Enable. Now if I enable the shared disk, it would disable the cache. Let's say it says allow the disk to be attached to two or more virtual machine, depending on storage type and disk size. When shared disk is enabled, host caching is unavailable. Um, uh, I'll tell you what, guys, for the sake of this for the purpose of this lab, let's just go ahead and leave this as default. So it's here, it says that on-demand bursting. So allow this disk to burst beyond regional provision, target up to 30,000 IOP and 100 megabit per second. So enable on-demand bursting. If you hit that, you would get that. So on-demand disk bursting is only supported on disk size more than 512 gigabit. So leave that by default, like I said. So data access authentication mode, allow data access with Azure Active Directory authentication for disk upload and upload and export. So I'll leave this as default. Like I said, okay, now let's come to tag. If you want to, you could give it a name. That's not gonna hurt. Might as well just call this. What was the name I gave my disk? Um, it's AZ. Um, what's the name I gave my disk? Let's say is US and disk. Let's call it disk. Okay, and um, and then it says review and create. Oh, now let's go ahead and just scroll down to check out all the review. Oh, it looks like we look good. Now let's click on create. Okay, it says deployment is in progress. So soon it will be finished. Now it's complete. If you go on resource, you can see all the details of the disk here right there. Now to attach the disk to the virtual machine, let's go ahead and go back to the home page and let's click on the virtual machine. As we clicked the virtual machine here, Let's say um, let's click on disk. Oh no, just a second. Let's just go back out here. That's the virtual machine. That's the disk. RG. Let's go on virtual machine here, just to be on the safe side. So let's click on it. Now we click on disk. And here it's gonna list the OS disk. It's gonna allow you to create one if you want to. But in our case, we don't need to create any disks. We already have an existing disk that we've been created in this lab. So let's just hit that. Now, uh, now if we could hit create disk. Let's say it's gonna let's say uh, this name, the storage type, like the disk name, the storage type, the size, so and everything, like the max IOP and everything. But in our case, we already create one, so there's no need for that. Let's just back out here. We'll just click on the existing. Tell you what, probably was hit this twice. So let's go back. Oh, all we gotta do is just hit this, and the disk that we've been created is this disk here. As you could tell, we just select it. It will give us all the detail. Now, down here, you could either or like select like read only or read write. But in our case, if you want to, you could create, let's just hit like read write, and then up here, we could just hit save. Now, the only difference between the read only and read write is that read only only achieve the low read latency, and so it's kind of like increasing the throughput. Now the read write, the problem is like the data that we're using should have the ability to write data from the cache to the persistent disk that we do not know of. So for our lab processes, we would kind of like do the read write. Now let's see here. As you can see, now that this is being attached into our virtual machine. Uh, um, One thing to keep in mind, once the managed created disk has been created, it has been mounted into the virtual machine. If it's a Linux virtual machine, if it's have a Ubuntu, or if it's a Windows, it might have a disk management as a drive or as a location on your Windows operating system. So Yep, this kind of conclude this lab. So thank you so very much. Stay tuned for another lab configuration. I'll see you in the next lab.